Hey Faith Family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, Calvary Bible Church, welcome back to another episode. I was out last week, and so I apologize. I know you guys, your weeks were totally thrown off. I know Randy's was.
Oh my, yes.
Just missed this time.
Everybody felt bad though for you guys. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Rebecca's doing better. Many folks know she was just down with the flu/pneumonia, and she's recovering. She's probably about 50% now, and thankfully, yeah. So
Tough week.
Yeah, it was good though.
Series of week, a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was started just before Thanksgiving.
That's right.
But anyway, we're glad to be on the mend. Doesn't always happen. So, so Randy. Last time, though, actually, it's been a couple of weeks because 2 weeks ago you weren't here and Austin sat in with me.
That's right.
And we just talked about Advent. So my curveball for you today is, what's your favorite Christmas food?
Christmas food.
Like this just season. It doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, a Christmas Day dinner or anything like that, but it could be.
Wow. Christmas food, favorite Christmas food.
What do you like to eat this time of year?
Probably some of the Christmas sweets more than, because, just coming off from Thanksgiving, and we usually have some great meals around Thanksgiving time, but maybe some of the special treats around here, Christmas cookies or something like that might be a favorite.
Wow.
Some of the fancy, a lot of people with chocolate and stuff like that. That's probably a nice.
Yeah.
Out of the norm.
That's what Austin and I both said, cookies.
Yeah.
I would just love Christmas cookies.
For that, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. It is a lot of fun. I've been eating a fair share. And actually the other day, I got a shoe fly pie as a Christmas gift from a company. And I love shoe fly pie. It's a good one.
If you ever get a chance, try shoe fly whoopie pies.
I don't like whoopie pies.
Oh, that's right. You don't.
Does it have the regular cream in the middle?
What
makes it a shoe fly? Just the molasses type flavor of the.
It was delicious. Wow.
I would eat the top and the bottom.
Well, yeah, that's right. I forgot about you. You're not a whoopie pie
I'm a
fan.
weirdo like that way. A lot of people think so. Anyway, all right. So we're in this Advent series. This past week we were on Peace, week 2 of Advent. And Randy and I, we were chatting yesterday just about some of the similarities between our two texts. So I was in Isaiah 9 the week before.
That's right. Yeah.
And then we were in Isaiah 32, and just this idea that we've got a king who is coming, and Isaiah 9 is this prophecy of this child, the son, the Prince of Peace, and my word was hope, but I didn't actually have the word hope in my passage. It came up in chapter 8, but really the hope of this coming king is what the thought was for that morning, and then we talked about it a little bit again on this similar concepts came up in Isaiah 32. So anyway, we've got this king that's going to reign, this child who will have the government on his shoulders. And I just thought it was interesting just to get the ball rolling here to think about, you posed the question, what's the phrase about America? By the people, for the people. Yeah. Right. And why that doesn't necessarily work. Yeah. But for what it's worth, it's been a pretty good form of government.
Oh, yeah.
And I think what's interesting is that you've got, one of the reasons it works is because you have those checks and balances, and you don't have ultimate power in any one person's lap. And therefore, you have this collective movement. And so it can be a really good way, a democratic way of leading a people. Because no one person has ultimate power.
Or one ideology, like a political party, for instance.
Yeah.
In Canada, for instance, when whoever gets in power, they always have the vote that they need, if I remember correctly, from their government system. So I forget the terms that they used over there, but to use our terms, that if a Democrat is elected as president, then he or she always has the clout to make decisions for their term.
Gotcha.
So that's slightly different, but here we do have, depending on who's in the House and Senate. Yeah.
Yeah. But now if we could, so the benefit of having a democracy is you've got this collective movement of people from both or all sides, however many there are. And that's a good thing, because ultimate power in the hands of one person is not usually a good thing. It's never a good thing, because there's no human that can really do that well. But if you could find that one guy, that one person to lead the nation, the country, who ruled in righteousness and justice, that would be a good government to be in. And ultimately, that's the superhuman king that we find in Jesus. And so that's where we were on Sunday. One question that I have here for you is the second part of verse 1. We didn't really dive in, but I was wondering too, the princes that are referenced in verse 1. So we know who the king is going to be, or is, but who are the princes that are referenced?
Yeah. So we didn't get to it at all. I think I referred to it a couple of times, but it looks to be like at the end of the story in Revelation that we're the ones that are going to be ruling with him. There are a couple of texts at the end of Revelation where you've got Christ coming with all of the saints with him, and I think what's the the great song, the great Christmas song. Rich would kill me if he was looking at it. One he listened to all the time. They sing it in cantata. The choirs get together and do it, and it's all taken from Scripture. My word, we're both idiots.
I'm not as much of an idiot as you are on this one. It's not my genre. I know what you mean, though. They sing it down at Lancaster.
We'll reign with him forever and ever. The words are coming right from Scripture. Yeah. So my thought from verse 1, and princes will rule in justice. In the historical times, you've got a king with all of the powerful people around him. That all the people in his cabinet or his council. In historical times, you can see that happening. But I think, for us, just looking forward to the fact that we are going to rule with Christ. And so justice will be the way in which we rule too, because we'll be reflecting him. The king has absolute sway. So, whoever is with him is going to rule like him, along with him. So I think that's the best reading, is to see us as a part of that. Yeah. Which is it's a great way to look at our future.
It's exciting
to be able to fill a new heaven and a new earth with this type of government, and we have a part in that. Which is, of course, if I linked it back to Genesis.
That's where I was going to go next.
Go ahead, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, it reminds me of Genesis 1, where we are to subdue and have dominion over, the fish of the sea and the birds of the air. And so there's this already this sense that we are to be God's rulers on earth and taking care of what he's given us.
Yeah, that's what I would say is the best way to read that.
Yeah, so it's an already and in the future type of rule or reign or place that we have under God's authority.
Yeah, which is why when we do Beyond Sunday like this, if you're trying to put a text like this into practice, then part of what we're doing is we're saying that whatever our little sphere of influence is right now,
your workplace.
I need to make sure that this is what I'm contributing to.
Yeah.
As opposed to what we'll get into in a moment, we don't want to have any part in what's happening in our world in a particular area in this prophecy. But I do say to all of us, myself included, that we want to make sure that we are practicing what we will be doing for eternity, and we can do that because we're being transformed into the King
now,
like the King.
Yeah. So you said what we're going to get to in a minute here. We don't want to do. I'm not taking us anywhere. So take us.
So what I think I sort of snuck it at the end. So, there's always a problem with time and in my own memory, and do I do what I should do up there and so forth. But there's a place right in the middle of this, in this Isaiah passage, Isaiah 32, verse. You have verse 7. Well, actually, the fool, which I did refer to.
Yeah.
So the fool is in 5 and in 6. The scoundrel is in 7. And then verse 8, but he who is noble plans noble things, and on noble things he stands. So you have that section, which I did not intend to spend much time on at all, but only to say what you're seeing in the middle section of verse 3 down through verse 8 is the transformation of the citizens. You have a total transformation of society, which means we have to somehow correct the problem that is in our world right now. So if you look at verse 5, the fool will no more be called noble. That's not going to happen. Yeah. So if I ask you right now in our culture, who are the noble ones? Who are thought to be the noble ones in our culture right now? It's usually the folks with wealth and power. They're the ones they actually have. If I ask you who has true celebrity status in our world, think about, who's the most popular on Instagram or Twitter accounts or something like that. Think about those types of people. Who are they, and what gave them that platform? Yeah. How did they get the title?
Can I list two?
Yeah.
LeBron James is someone who people, when he says something, they listen. Yeah. Oh, Taylor Swift.
Yes.
Here's another one that just came to my mind. Elon Musk, the Tesla guy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Or,
So if you take those three, on what basis are they considered to have influence? LeBron?
Athletic prowess, money.
Taylor Swift?
Yep.
Singing entertaining.
Yep.
Right? A couple of entertainers, actually, LeBron and her. And then finally, the gentleman Elon at the head Musk. Of Tesla, it would be his wealth, his creative ability, or whatever you'd call it. Yeah. Now, I don't know anything about their character. It's just that you'll notice that this prophecy says that there's coming a time when society will no longer be able to do that, to call a fool noble or the scoundrel honorable. The criteria is going to shift to character issues. And so that's why when we get down to the bottom, when we get to verse 8, but he who is noble plans noble things, and on noble things he stands. Now we have the opportunity for us to be, and I think I referred to that on Sunday. It's a great term, where God is calling us these magnificent people who share his. The old word was, I'm sure it's still used in some place in the world, aristocracy.
Yeah.
So what's happening with this nobility is these are people who they are somehow connected to the king. So they are part of the aristocracy. And that's who we are. I preferred the reading of this Hebrew term as the magnificent ones. It's just a great way to think about who we are, but it's because we share the character of the king. That's what makes us that way. So this nobility in verse 8 is that's who we are to be now in a world that actually is calling, we're calling other people. We're putting other people into that category, probably for different reasons, for different reasons than God does. Yeah. So it's a great call for us this week, obviously, to be citizens of this King.
Yeah,
right now, at least in part.
Right.
Knowing that at some point when we got to the end of this, it'll be complete someday, where we will be able to rest in the secure dwellings and all of that peace that we discussed at the end, the true shalom.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I like the way you put it there. We rule now in part, and there will be a future day in the heavenly kingdom where we will be fully capable or fully in that position.
Without being outnumbered. Not only are we fully capable in the future, because we'll be transformed. When we see him, we'll be like him. So in the future, we will be completely transformed into this character trait.
Yeah.
But also, we will not be outnumbered anymore. We will be, only righteousness will dwell there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another prophetic text that we could go to. Yeah. So that new world is because every citizen is enjoying the reign of the King. It's going to be a great world.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Quick side question that came to my mind. Who do we reign over as princes? There's not the common folk, and if everyone's a prince or a princess under the king,
just
the earth and all that is in it.
Yeah, and I don't think it has. I think
it doesn't have that idea in, the prince. Maybe it's under the king.
Yeah.
And we're all ruling and reigning.
Yeah.
Under him.
That's what I would think. We have so little data to go on, but that's what I would think.
Yeah.
I just think what makes that a special prophecy for us is, we desperately need well-being. I mean, you and I desperately need well-being in our world right now.
Mm-hmm.
We need the sense of wholeness or intactness of shalom. So we have a part of it now. We rest in this king's ability to rule for us. And I hope you're able to be in this, at the end of the reading there. My people will abide in a peaceful habitation, in secure dwellings, and in quiet resting places. And, at the end of it, that blessed, we just read it, but happy are you who do this. It's that same blessedness that we see throughout Scripture.
Yeah.
I hope you're able to enjoy some of that now. But also, I couldn't get away from the fact that we have a lot to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's a good world coming. Yeah.
So one other question here that ties in. We've got this king that's going to reign in righteousness and peace. How can the church or a Christian be righteous on the issues that you mentioned that were important to 13 to 25-year-olds? That the list of 5.
Yeah.
I didn't get them all. Do you remember them offhand?
I don't, but I can tell you that number one, you can't do. As we said, the problem with those 5 are the problem is that there are so many opinions on how they should be.
Mm-hmm.
So, take immigration, for instance, which was certainly a big topic. So take that one if you want. Who has the right idea about that?
Yeah.
Depends on who you ask, right?
Right.
So the question, how can the church, how is it framed?
How can the church or a Christian be righteous on issues like these?
Yeah. So the first thing is to say you have to follow the leading of God within the boundaries of what is right in Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we have to go on as far as a standard.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is the Scriptures are not going to be as clear on this as you want them to be. Therefore, there will be a lot of
gray.
Yeah, gray areas, or I was thinking of a lot of latitude for Christians to feel differently about this, which gives me my third thing, which we've talked about a lot in this series.
Yeah.
Since there's so much latitude, so much movement, so much space for Christians to differ on how immigration should be, then we have to be extending grace to others who feel differently.
Mm-hmm.
What we can't do is we can't equate evangelicalism with a particular ideology alone. It's not able to bear under that load.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is we're continuing to divide over those issues rather than over theological issues.
Yeah.
So it's just what we're seeing happening right now in our world, the fracturing of it. The way to avoid that in the church is to be righteous, which includes that ability to extend grace to others who are trying to live their faith out with respect to immigration, trying to be righteous, but it's different from your variety.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 3 things to me that I think are critical for us.
Yeah. So there's going to be issues that allow for latitude, like you said, immigration rights, gun control, things like that.
Where do you go in the Scriptures to find your, and then if you do, you're proof texting, and we all know we all know what that does.
Yeah, but we love doing that. But then there's going to be issues like, let's say, racial injustice or the slavery of our country's history. That's something that seems a little bit more clear to me. And so in those issues, should I pursue, as a Christian, should I pursue justice? Should I fight for what is right?
Yeah. I think Americans have that. Americans have the right to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a child of the King, you want to represent Christ, and that's what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
You want justice.
Yeah.
He's going to rule in justice, so that's what we do.
So would you say it's important to have the ability to decipher what is a biblical issue or what is clear biblically and then what is not?
Yeah.
And then on the things that are not clear, like immigration rights, as an example, extend the grace and have a at least an understanding that someone can love and fear God, but think differently than you. But then an issue like, treating someone poorly because of the color of their skin.
Right. That's a no-brainer.
Not honoring the image of God in them. Then we say, no, that's a no-brainer. Yeah. I am going to fight for justice for that person.
Yeah, for the oppressed, for the powerless, all of that. I mean, God is clear about that, clear in the scriptures.
Yeah.
Let me tell you one other thing, though, if you're thinking along those lines, one of the difficulty is making sure that we are differentiating between, take something like gender inequality in our world. Should men and women be paid the same who do the same job?
Yeah.
And my understanding, yes.
Sure.
I think they should. So you have to make sure that you're ready to separate those types of matters, gender inequality in society versus how the genders are handled in the church. So one of the things that I've discovered is that there's a blurring of those lines totally. So remember, there's a difference between fighting for justice and fairness in the world, getting paid equally, versus do we go to scripture and now read the Bible and say, so since that's the case out there, it ought to be the case in here. Just remember that gender equality, fighting for gender equality in society is one thing. How we deal with the genders in church is another. We talked about this a few weeks ago. And that's one of the sticky points is when you come to church, now the church rules are governed by the pastoral epistles, let's say, and they may not be the same, right? So I would say, men and women doing the same job in the world ought to get paid the same. Why wouldn't they?
Opportunities.
But come into the church, and now we have to deal with the instructions that we covered a few weeks ago, where someone could easily say, well, that's not fair. How come women don't have the opportunity to do this? And Paul said, well, there was a problem back at creation order.
Yeah.
So as long as we're recognizing those things while you're fighting for some things out there, just remember they don't always transfer into the church because of the theology.
Yeah, that's a good distinction to keep in mind. That's helpful. Yeah, good. All right. So that was it for the day. Yep. So we got peace. So go forth this week beyond Sunday and enjoy the peace that we have now, and look forward to the peace that's coming into the future too, because that's better.
That's a nice benediction you did right there.
All right.
That was good. Mark Musser will appreciate that.
All right. Yeah, I love a good benediction.
Yeah.
All right. Jesus is with you. We love you too. But not as much as Jesus does.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Have a good week. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.